Welcome back to the channel. This week we are talking a little bit about a new project that I just started in 2026, which is for the first time helping make baby blankets for local charities. And that's because these are a little too big usually for me to sneak into my carry-on as I'm traveling around the world, but a great project if you are at home over the holidays or could fit it in over the year. So, our group partners with local charities who get wool donated or yarn donated because it's much easier for them to do that with their charitable registration number. And they drop off the bags of yarn to our local group and a wish list of things they might need made. So, that could be hats or socks or mittens or baby blankets for expecting mothers, and we work up the various projects. So, a great kind of idea if your group is thinking about how to do this. So, earlier in the year, I did a wheat sheath baby blanket and it turned out great, very lovely. And I decided I might test out some different wheat sheaf sort of stitchy options. But with the yarn that we got donated, it was a little finer, and the kind of stacked wheat sheaf that I tested I thought was not really quite safe enough for baby blankets. You have to think about little fingers or toes maybe getting caught in it. And the charity that we partner with does a great job about, again, getting yarn that's washable, practical, works great for infants. So I then switched over to think about the grit stitch, which I had been practicing for a cardigan project. And I kind of used that and it looked like it was going to turn out great. So I will make sure to, again, keep all of the notes and my gauge and thing if that is helpful for people that are doing the projects. I did find out after that on a lot of things that I was seeing on YouTube, people were posting a grit stitch as a double crochet first, followed by a single crochet. The one that I had referenced when I was kind of learning this stitch was a single crochet followed by a double crochet. I'm not sure that really matters, but there was two different ways of doing it, and so the pictures that I was showing for all of mine were a single followed by a double. I don't know if that's because I'm a lefty and I was originally looking at left-handed information, but again, I don't really think it matters. And sizes for baby blankets are really easy to find online. And so one of the things I was doing with this project is I had just signed up for Stitch Fiddle, which is a software program that kind of, for a lot of people, is very helpful to kind of flip a photo into a kind of stitch pattern. And I was just, setting up the account and playing around with it and was a bit amazed at, not just whether it would tell me how much yarn I might need for a particular project, but actually kind of a bit terrifying about how many grit stitches are in a baby blanket, or how many of any kind of stitch project is in a bit blanket, because you sort of stick your gauge in and you can kind of figure out a little bit of information. So for me, this was a little bit intimidating because I usually just think this is a relaxing project to do while I'm watching TV, and was a little surprised. I guess I just never thought about the number of stitches in each project, so it was a little interesting to find out if other people actually, think this is inspiring or if it terrifies them. But it was very kind of interesting to kind of plop some information in, and I'll continue to play around with it. So if you have some tips or tricks on Stitch Fiddle, do let me know. So, it was an easy project. Again, a very nice repetitive grit stitch. So very meditative as you're kind of working along something that, you could pick up and relax and kind of work on in between maybe some of your more complicated projects. Again, the yarn is donated, so works really well. I found it was pretty straightforward. And again, the grit stitch made for, I think, a nice warm blanket, but without sort of large gaping holes that could catch different kind of objects and stuff. And it did make a much larger blanket than my first test on the wheat sheaf, just because it wasn't so much of a yarn eater, although it still kind of gives a different, interesting, pretty stitch to the blanket. So again, I'm just sort of doing a standard kind of baby blanket size, but there's lots of options, and certainly our charities are very happy to get, sort of stroller size blankets or larger size blankets. It all varies depending on the yarn that they kind of get. And I would do a stacked wheat sheaf, if I had a much denser, thicker yarn. But this is just what I was working on for the projects that I started off in January. So just continued along, again, checking sort of standard measurements, but it was a really great way as well about practicing a certain stitch. And when we get lots of questions about doing things for charities, I can share that our group finds this really helpful. So, charities have charitable registration numbers. They can usually get yarn donations. It's much easier for them than sort of every individual person doing it. And I know our group is a sort of drop-in community group, but there are lots of people, that don't particularly belong to book clubs or drop-in programs that they have to commit to on a regular basis. I know I struggle because of my travel schedule, but this makes it really easy for the community to kind of come together when it's convenient for you. Pop in, pick up some yarn, look at the list of project needs that the charities are letting us know about. So it makes it a little bit more of a consistent supply chain, if you will, for the charities, because they kind of have a better idea of, what they are expecting. And, we're making sure that we're providing stuff that they need and that's really practical. So again, people just pick it up, work on various projects that they feel like working on, and then drop off the finished blanket or socks or knits or hats or, whatever, again, is kind of on the idea list that you were interested in sort of, again, just adding into your project pile throughout the year. So enjoyed making this blanket. Again, when you're doing crochet, they whip up so fast. Really feels great to be able to contribute and offer some, expecting moms that unfortunately, aren't housed at the moment and are a little stressed out, I'm sure, by, all of the changes that are happening in their life. To be able to provide a beautiful baby blanket that's handmade really shows the community is trying to be supportive and care, and it could make a lovely gift basket for an expecting mom at one of the shelters. But again, smaller projects make great things to do if you're waiting in airports or traveling on longer flights. Don't have a lot of room in your suitcase or your bags to, carry them around. You can donate them, to a charity wherever you arrive. And so this was a really easy project. Again, it was just a grit stitch baby blanket, and I finished it off with just some really simple single crochet. So I would recommend this combination. It makes up a large blanket. I'm happy to do more of these, and again, it'll be interesting to see what new yarn drop-offs we get. They're usually in lovely colors that are kind of suited for baby blankets, but again, helpful for the charities to just let us know what is it that they need, and again, throughout the year and not just, on special occasions, so that they have a little bit more consistency and they know exactly what they can plan around. So I hope this helps if people are thinking about doing new projects, supporting charities. Baby blankets are one of the things we often get asked for. So was delighted to have the time over the holidays to be able to do some of these and share the output with you. Thanks again for all of the watching. Really helps our channel grow. And again, if you have questions about how we do it, please put them in the comments below.